I'm getting ready to start on a new round of guitar necks. I've got some laminated blanks left over from the ones I made before, and these are thick enough to make the angled headstock. Now I've got one here that's thick enough for the angled headstock, but I'm going to saw it down the middle and make two Fender style necks that have the same laminations in it. I've got this piece of hard rock maple right here that I'll get probably about 4 guitar necks out of this one right here. And right here I'm working on a new laminated neck. These are not been glued together yet, but they've all been prepared. This neck is made from maple, walnut, mahogany, and it's made to match this body, which is mahogany, walnut, and maple. I've got these two pieces of maple that I've been running through this drum sander. And to make sure that I know when I've got the surface sanded flat, I put a coat of paint and then ran it through the drum sander, and you can see where all the low spots are. To do that, I'm just using a sandable primer, just putting a fine mist on it. And it dries really quick too. Each one of these boards got ran through the belt sander this way, turned it around, and ran it through again. I did a little bit on this side as I was going too, but as you can see, still have a little bit more to go. And these boards will be even thickness and ready to glue up. Now, I've done the exact same thing I did with the maple, where I put some paint on here and I'm sanding it until the paint all goes away. So I'll go ahead and get this one glued up, and I'll go ahead and split this one. After sawing these in half, here's what the unsawed side looks like, and here's what it looks like after I ran it through the bandsaw. I've let this glue sit up about 45 minutes, and I've started to scrape it off. Makes it a whole lot easier. Got the ears added. I've established my center line down the middle. I'm going to put my template on there, line it up on the line. I'm going to clamp it down and then put some screws in it. I'm only drilling in places where the wood is going to be removed when you route it. Now I'll mark out the outline of the neck. Before I do anything else, I'll route it for the truss rod. A couple of these guitars are going to get pale moon ebony for the fretboards. Here's what it looked like when it was rough sawn. It doesn't look that great. It's like, that's not what I've seen in pictures. Well, this side I sanded, and you can see it's starting to look a whole lot better. Here's a board I said I could get 4 more blanks out of for guitar necks. Well, that will have to be counting the 2 pieces of this neck that I've already taken off of this. So this was much longer when I bought it. And believe it or not, I got this piece of curly maple, almost an inch thick, for $30. And I'm going to get 4 guitar necks out of it. Here's a piece I had left over from it. That's going to be part of a laminated guitar neck. And I'm going to take and get 2 Fender style necks out of it. This, I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe glue onto the edges like this for the headstock. But I brought this in here because this part of the kitchen counter is as flat as surface I got is this long, and I wanted to see how much twist this board had. So if I clamp it on this end, you can see it's got a little twist. That end rose up. And this edge down here is pretty straight. When I cut this, I'm going to have a strip left over right here and here. And I'll combine it with this strip right here and get another neck out of it. So if I measure the amount of twist this has, it's about 5/16. There we go. If I was to remove 5/16 from this, it wouldn't be thick enough to make a Fender style neck from. What I'm going to do with this before I take the twist out is cut it into the individual pieces that it needs. This side off, another piece, and then I'm going to run it through and surface it, get that twist out of it. I won't lose as much material that way by doing it in shorter pieces. Okay, before I go cutting this board into guitar necks, one more thing to consider is it's not straight. It's got a bow on this side. On this side it's curved in, on this side it's curved out. So you might be inclined to want to straighten this thing now. Well, if you do that, you're going to lose too much wood. I say cut it into your shorter lengths, then straighten what you have to. Okay, I got my 2 pieces cut to 29 inches. You can see there's still some rock to it. More in this one. And this is the little scrap piece left over. I'm getting ready to cut a straight edge on here. Take that little bit of bow out of it. I've shimmed it on the corner so it won't rock. And there's some double-sided tape under here on the low corner so it won't slide around and lock down on each end like this. I'm going to slide this through the table saw. Now we'll cut a 3 3/4 inch piece, and that'll be a neck blank. So here's what I got out of that single $30 piece of wood so far. These 2 pieces on this laminated neck. This will make a Fender style flat sawn. This one too. I'll have these 3 pieces to laminate, make another neck, and that's the leftover piece. So 4 necks out of a $30 piece of wood. I've taken and modified one of the sleds, made a jig here, got these screws going through. They poke out right here a little bit. I'm going to take this blank that's not flat quite, put it in here, and it rocks just a little bit. So where it rocks, I'm putting shims under it, and in this case, a razor blade on this high spot and a razor blade on this spot stops it from rocking. The low side, I'm going to put a piece of double-sided tape here, one here, run these screws in, and that ought to set nice and flat. I set the RPMs to the drill press up to about 2,800. Got the safety planer in here set to where it just will barely hit the high spots, and we'll run it through and see what happens. Here we go. This is the board that's been ran through the safety planer. Once I got one side good, I turned it over and did the other side. With the safety planer, you got to take off a little bit at a time. It doesn't like to just skim. It's got to take off something. So this one is flat. It's not tippy. This one still rocks. So this one has not been done yet. It started off as about 1 inch thick, and this one is right at 13/16. This would be perfect neck blank. This board has been ran through the thickness sander a time or two, but it's still got some of the swirls from the safety planer. Since you can't do the whole width of the board at a time with the safety planer, this is a line left over from the safety planer. There's just a hair difference in the height of this, but the board is plenty thick enough and we'll take that out with the thickness sander. So I've taken and misted that board with black primer. I'll run that through the thickness sander and we'll know exactly where the low spots are. So I'm doing the same thing to a piece of wingay. Got a shim under this corner right here to take the rock out of it. So here's some of the things I've been working on. I got 2 maple blanks that were made out of that long piece of maple that was twisted. So that's a lot of what this video is about, is getting the twist out of this board and getting it to the thickness. So I made 2 of those. And I had a piece of wingay I bought and made some fingerboards out of them. And that's ready for a guitar neck blank. I got the idea when I went to Sweetwater here a few months ago. I saw a guitar up there with wingay. So here's some pieces that's out of that same board. I'm going to glue them up for another neck. Here's the one that I got all glued up. Here's the boards that I sliced for making a thinner style neck with this headstock. Their thickness to the right thickness. All this lumber was purchased here in Ohio, about 30 miles from my house, an exotic lumber store where this is African mahogany, hard curly maple. What else have I got in here? Some walnut. It all came from the same place. Once I get these new guitar necks far enough along and they're ready to stick in this profile jig, what you're going to want to see is how I've mechanized this to rotate this with a motor. Now, this doesn't quite work right, but I've got ideas to make it work just right. So you'll have to check back in just a few weeks to see that. Marvelous.